The Texas frontier in the early to mid-19th century held great promise and danger for the settlers who pushed the boundaries westward. The new republic was under siege from raids by outlaws, Indians, and Mexican troops. From this turbulent time grew the legend of the Texas Rangers. The man who most shaped that legend was John Coffee Hays, commonly known as Captain Jack. He was a slightly built, soft-spoken, well-educated man who, despite his physical appearance, became a giant in Texas history. Hays County is named in his honor. Jack Hays decided to seek his fortune in Texas after reading about the Alamo in a weekly paper from his home in Tennessee. He arrived in Texas during the winter of 1837 to 38. President Sam Houston, hero of the Battle of San Jacinto, stood by the fireplace, favoring the ankle shattered by a Mexican rifle ball in the decisive fight. Houston turned to Jack, offered a hand, and waved Jack to a seat. He then asked Jack what he could do to be of service to the visitor.
I knew a Hays family back in Tennessee.
That's my family.
I served with your father and your uncle in the Creek Indian War.
I've heard tell of that.
So tell me, young Mr. Hays, what is it that brings you to our brand new nation, the Republic of Texas?
I hear tell this is a land of opportunity. I've come down to start over new.
Well, by your leave, indeed I hope it is. And I hope you can be of service to us. But tell me, what do you bring us? What experience have you?
Well, I've done some surveying before and done a little bit of Indian fighting back home.
I tell you most earnestly, sir, what this country needs most is protection. I have a very dear friend in San Antonio de Bejar. He is a captain of a mounted ranging company. Offer your services to him. I think he will be of service to you. And perhaps you will be of service to Texas.
I'll do that.
Jack explained that he was a new arrival to the Republic of Texas and could use some advice on opportunities available in the new land. Jack outlined his qualifications as a surveyor and scout and produced a letter of introduction from his uncle. After reading the letter, Houston pointed out that the new republic was in desperate need of trained surveyors to map the mostly uncharted land and to lend his talents to the protection of settlers when needed. Jack readily agreed with Houston's recommendations. He wasn't long in putting those talents to the test.
You will be of great value to Texas.
Thank you, sir.
To San Antonio de Bejar with you.
Will do.
And to Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
After serving his first few years with militia and other ranging companies, Jack Hays was appointed by the Republic of Texas to organize the San Antonio Ranging Company to protect the southwestern frontier. He chose the men he was to lead with care, men of courage and endurance, expert horsemen, and marksmen with both rifle and handgun. The men Jack selected to complete the company had to be honest with him and with each other and trusted to fight when the time came.
All right, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna practice riding and shooting at the mark. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pass down there towards that target, take a shot at it as you go past, come back around. Is everybody clear with that? Everybody good? All right, let's try it out.
Applicants who didn't measure up were thanked for their interest and then gently rejected. Jack did not automatically assume command. He left that decision to the men. who promptly elected him as their captain. From that day on, he was known as Captain Jack, at first by his men, then by all Texans, and eventually by an entire nation. Jack's ranging company was responsible for patrolling hundreds of miles of Texas frontier. The Republic of Texas gave him the authority of martial law, and he was often put in a position of enforcement, judge, and jury. Rangers often operated as spy companies to investigate suspicious activity. They would sometimes hold back as Jack would ride up to investigate.
¿Quieres? ¿Qué quieres? ¿Qué está haciendo? ¿Qué te quieres? Nada para ti. Vaya para allá.
Jack had no trouble following the conversation as he was fluent in Spanish. He asked, "What's in the wagon?" One of the two men standing beside the heavily laden wagon, suspicious of the newcomer, made a fatal mistake.
Él es militar. Mátalo.
He reached for his pistol. Jack dropped him with a single round ball. The other Rangers appeared at the edge of the camp, rifles and pistols at the ready as the other bandits raised their hands. Jack pulled back the tarp covering the cargo. The cart contained guns and ammunition. Jack didn't anger easily, but this time was an exception. Guns in the hands of outlaws or Indians spelled big trouble on the Texas frontier. There was little debate among the Rangers over what to do with the captives. Those who stole guns to trade with rebels and Indians had already signed their own death warrants.
Un beso para mi cruzado, por favor.
The Rangers located a sturdy tree and administered the needed dose of frontier justice. Jack Hayes didn't like hangings. It was a brutal way to die, but at times it was necessary. The punishment had to fit the crime. Jack frequently led surveying parties into Comanche country far from the nearest settlement. Most of the country was uncharted, unknown to all but a few frontiersmen, scouts, and Indian tribes friendly with Texans. The Comanches knew that when the surveyors came, Anglo roads and settlers would not be far behind. That marked the surveyors as prime targets for the Indians. The surveying parties were small bands of men, usually no more than 5 or 6 strong, with one of the men serving as a scout and hunter for the group. Bigfoot Wallace often accompanied Jack's group, and from this seasoned frontiersman, Jack absorbed information about the Indians, their tactics, and their weaknesses. He knew a man learned more by listening than by talking. Jack had studied surveying in Mississippi, and it would serve him well all of his life. The men placed markers and drove stakes to identify the corners of a tract of land. Jack also was a quick study of terrain, plotting possibilities, dangers, and escape routes in his mind after a cursory glance. Frequently, a war party would find itself under attack instead of being the attacker, as Jack set ambushes or did something totally unexpected by the Indians. And the Indians were right. Where Jack and his surveying parties went, roads and settlements soon followed.